Welcome, I'm Corey Newton. Let's dive right in. This is an introductory video on public goods. We'll dive right in with market failure. This is the only point where I'm going to depart from the economic orthodoxy, or the academic economic dogma, if you will. What I'm going to say is that the market does not fail to provide the optimal amount of public goods. What I'm going to say is that the actual goods and services themselves that fail to clear the market at a market price. So in that essence, the market does not fail. The market mechanism works exactly how it's supposed to, where rational economic decision makers aren't going to produce something where their costs exceed their benefits. So that's the only point of departure I'm going to take from the economic orthodoxy, if you will, of public goods. So let's dive right in to public goods. Public goods are non-rival and non-excludable. And that's great. Well, what does that mean? A non-rival good is where one individual's consumption of a good does not affect another's opportunity to consume it. Let me say that again. One individual's consumption of a good does not affect another's opportunity to consume it. So a couple of examples of that. The first is national defense. And textbooks like to stretch it out a little bit, so we'll play to them a little bit. Also including clean air and clean water. Non-excludable. Non-excludable goods, individuals cannot deny each other the opportunity to consume it. Again, national defense, clean air, and clean water. Let's bounce over to the other side over here. We got pure public goods and impure public goods. Let's talk about them for a second. Pure public goods. Goods that are perfectly non-rival in consumption and are non-excludable. Again, the best example of that is national defense. Everyone is blanketed by the national defense. Impure public goods. Goods that satisfy two public good conditions to some extent, but not fully. Examples of this include police, education, highways, and the administration of justice. So before we get much further, we're going to jump into public policy. Public policy 350, cross-listed between economics and political science, and their definition of an impure public good. Impure public goods satisfy the two public good conditions of non-rival and non-excludability, though they do not meet the criteria as clearly. Examples include police protection and education. Police protection generally provides a safer environment for everyone living in an area, even if one does not contribute to the purchase of that protection. Education is a similar good. The primary beneficiary of an education is a person educated. However, there are secondary benefits to society that result from a better educated workforce. Moreover, the amount of education allotted to one person does not affect the amount left for others. The same could be said for highway space or the administration of justice. Alright, so just hold that thought, follow me for a minute. Let's go down here. Expenses of the sovereign or the commonwealth. Now this comes from Adam Smith himself. The Wealth of Nations, 1776, Book 5, Chapter 1. Expenses of the sovereign or the commonwealth. He lists defense. Now defense qualifies as non-rival, non-excludable, pure public good. But all the rest of them are impure public goods. Justice, public works and institutions, education, dignity of the sovereign. So here's Mr. Free Market, laissez-faire, invisible hand himself, justifying the expense of justice, public works and institutions, education, dignity of sovereign, which are impure public goods. So hopefully you see it building. All this stress and tension and friction between impure, pure, non-rival, non-excludable, and public goods. And the source of that tension, stress, and friction is scarcity. scarcity, because of non-rival and non-excludable. Let's just review that again. Non-rival. One individual's consumption of a good does not affect another's opportunity to consume it. Individuals, non-excludable. Individuals cannot deny each other the opportunity to consume it. Yeah, without scarcity, but scarcity is real everywhere and in your face. And the definition of scarcity occurs when the amount of people's desire exceeds the amount available at zero price. And all of this costs something. As you remember from the PPF, there's a trade-off between capital goods and services, consumer goods and services, public goods, military goods, and services for both of those, and social insurance. So, the textbook definitions leave out scarcity. They just act like, okay, you can consume it. It's not going to affect anybody else to consume it. You cannot deny each other. Well, scarcity has something else to say about that. And another element that has something to say about it is the free rider dilemma. All right, free rider dilemma occurs when an individual who reaps the benefits from someone else's purchase or consumption of a public good. So they're not paying for it and they're riding along for free. Which tends to happen. Now, where are we going with this? This is where we're going. Given scarcity, and given a free rider dilemma, and given the PPF, and the redistribution of the size of the pie, instead of the growth of the size of the pie, there's a lot of pressure on governments at every level, at the local level, at your city level, at your county level, at your state level, and at the federal level. So what we're proposing, and why we put out this introductory video, I mean, this is just to set the table for more videos to come, but what we propose doing is really looking at public goods. Okay, which of the goods, public goods, you look at your budget at whatever level. If you're unfortunate enough to have your town or county or municipality or even state still operating on a line item departmental budget, or you're in a better situation where they've established performance evaluation, performance measurement, where they've established an outcome-based budget, you need to look at everything that the municipality, the county, the town, the government, the sovereign, or the commonwealth is spending money on. And you need to ask, is it impure? Is it pure? Is it non-rival? Is it non-excludable? Now, we've already seen you have impure goods put in as legitimate funds by Adam Smith himself. So you see the tension once you have smaller ones of these and the breakdowns of these. So this is a good framework and a good benchmark to say, do we need to be paying for this? Is it impure? How non-excludable is it? Is it 50% non-excludable? Is it 40%? So the less you have, you need to look at the crowding out. Okay? Now what is crowding out? All crowding out is a reduction in the private sector from borrowing and spending because of the increase of borrowing and spending by the government. So the government's borrowing and spending to pay for something that is rival and is excludable. Private investment's being crowded out. That's a program or a department that can be privatized or deregulated, and you can get a crowding in effect. Okay, from crowding out. Once you identify what's being crowded out, you can potentially crowd in. And all crowding is when the government decreases its borrowing and decreases its spending on something, the private sector increases its borrowing and spending. So that can result in competition, which will lower the price to provide the public good. So when you look at market failure, that's why I think it's bad to look at it. That's why I'm saying it's because the good its service itself does not clear the market. And once you wrap that up in the government, so the government's going to provide it over the market failure, let's look at the criteria. If it doesn't meet the criteria, let's get rid of it. Let's let it go to the private sector and let them crowd in and drive the price down. Let them drive the price down through competition and the decrease of government spending and borrowing associated with it. And that needs to occur on every single level, because we need to recognize scarcity. We need to recognize the free rider dilemma. We need to recognize that these non-rival and non-excludable goods are subject to scarcity and the free rider dilemma. We also have to recognize crowding out, the government spending and borrowing in areas that are not up to par, or crowding out private investment. Once you remedy that by scaling back on these. A perfect example is a nursing home. Okay, I know recently in New York they've had big problems with nursing homes. I know where my wife's from is Pennsylvania. The state funds and the counties fund the nursing homes. Well, guess what? I mean, it's scarcity. Not everybody's qualified to go to nursing home. Not everybody, and there's also other people that offer it besides the state. So by the government being involved in the nursing home business, it crowds out private investment. If they would relinquish that, it would crowd in. More people would say, look, we're going to run a nursing home. We're going to throw up the money to do it, crowd in, and that competition will reduce the cost. Competition reduces costs. Competition is good. Now, as far as, Adam Smith, we'll bounce back to him. These are all well established. He was part of the reason they got established. Defense of the nation, justice of the nation, your police, your court system, your prison system, your education, which has been debatable. I mean, the Republicans, as early as 1979, 35 years ago, were wanting to get rid of the Department of Education. Now, regardless if you want to have it centralized in education, you're still going to spend funds, whether or not you block grant them down the state or however you want to do it. But it's in the interest of society to have, an education system. Justice, we already covered. Let's cover this. This is very important. Public works and institutions. Let's look at some public works examples. Roads, bridges, rail, airports, canals, ports, crumbling infrastructure. But yet, it's very important to produce commerce, to promote robust economic exchange, and grow the PPF out, to expand it out. We need these basic public works projects. And then you look at the institutions that the sovereign and the Commonwealth has an interest in funding. Okay? And reaffirming the institution of private property. Business associations and legal institutions that administer contracts and corporations are very important for expanding the production possibilities frontier outwards. And your political institutions, the ability to get together without being persecuted and all of this, to be able to debate these issues and say, look, there's a better way forward. So public goods are a really significant portion of the rules of the game and the size of the pie. That's why I've devoted a whole whiteboard to them, and I'm going to devote many more videos to them to actually put it under a microscope. Let's break down, and we'll have specific examples. What goods, public public expenditures and raising revenue for are really, instead of being non-rival, they're rival. Instead of being non-excludable, they are excludable. How many of them are pure and how many are impure? Do we want the FDA? Well, yeah, they check out our drugs. Do we want the U.S. Department of Agriculture to inspect our meat? Well, yeah, that's a public good. And there's other ones in there that we need to really look at and find out whether or not they can be done somewhere else. So I thank you again. This is our introductory video to public goods. And I hope you share it. Share it out. I understand if you don't want to be on the expose yourself to the NSA watching you, share and distribute subversive economic videos. But there's a way around that. You can text them, you can email them to somebody. You do it on the down low. So I understand it. But thank you. We're all around the country this week. And it's cool to see the statistics. We got laptops, we got iPhones, we got iPads. Everybody's watching. So thank you, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Stay tuned for more videos. I'm Corey Newton. Enjoy your weekend.